Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News and Views, and we have excellent panel today. As you can see, we have a lot of guests today joining one by one, and we are. Hi, everyone. Okay, well, let's start with Mr. King since he joined the first one. So, just for everybody's uh, basically info, Mr. King has been longest serving commissioner in DC, 33 years, and serve under each mayor, assistant for elderly affairs, also chair ward for the five Democratic seniors COVID-19 Commission, member of National Organization Black Men for Biden. Wow, what a service! What a service!
Yes, and I see you've been joined by my colleague Caroline Petty. I see she's on.
Okay, yes. Hi, Caroline. How are you? And we have
Good.
Shaba Shams and we have Dr. Arif with us. So we are gonna go one by one, all of them. And let's welcome Dr. Masood from Maryland. He's representing Maryland today. So Dr. Masood is by profession pediatrician and also very active in Democratic Party. He has really helped raise a lot of actually money for different candidates. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Dr. Masood, your political affiliations and so forth.
Well, yeah, coming from Karachi, I was involved in the political parties there. At my med school, like we had some student bodies. Then I came here, and then honestly, I was busy with my life, with my profession. 9/11 happened, so I had two choices: either stay in my house or be active. So I joined the volunteer board of the Montgomery County Consumer Protection Advisory Board and the Recreation Board. Slowly, I joined. I was president of Montgomery County Muslim Council, and I had a good rapport with all the county executive, county office, even with the governors. We worked on the governorship when Hogan won. And lately, I've been involved with Brooke Lehman. She's running for ombudsman, no, not ombudsman, comptroller of Maryland, and soon Clifton Holland also. But my thing is, I am an immigrant. I'm a Pakistani, but I would like to get involved, and I think it's a beautiful country, beautiful place to get involved with. I've been welcomed, honestly, very uh, with open arms to come join the political process and be part of it. Like I need to be productive to prove myself that I really love the country. I really want to be part of the system. So have been very active over since Mubashir knows me, but I think I'll stop here. I'll stop here and I'll pitch in as we move on.
Okay, and we have our guest today also, Caroline Petty. She is the chair of DC Statehood Committee for Ward 5 Democrats, longtime resident of DC, and has been active in DC statehood for 10 years. And that's one of the topic we're going to discuss today. So how are you doing, Caroline?
I'm doing very well.
Thank you for coming to our show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we have Shaba Shams, my friend and a great speaker, as well as she does her show, and she's doing a phenomenal job in Florida, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I believe that I might be the only independent here.
Independent.
Thanks for having me. But I'm on your side. Don't worry about it.
I'm officially independent too because
So
Okay.
thank you for having us, guys.
Okay. And we have Dr. Rauf Arif from Texas. So he's all the way from Texas. So that's a very unique. Today we have combination of kind of all kind of views here. Dr. Arif is actually teaching in the university right now in journalism, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, and he's been in, of course, doing journalism for many years, although he looks very young. So, right. Is very well explained. So let's start with number one issue, and that is COVID right now. And I will just show what is the CDC data right now is basically showing for. So our data figures are from CDC basically. So as you can all see, look at this tracker, and cases are 25,780, and cases in last 30 days been uptick and then down. Total vaccines been 29.6, deaths 435. That's a big number. They're probably close to approaching 500,000 for sure. And then look at the various vaccination, and this is the vaccination map, and the darker blue means greater than 11,000, I believe. Yeah, that is means greater than 11,000 shots. Looking at Virginia, we are, I guess, total distribution, as you can see, we're still behind, I guess. So let's focus first on this COVID. So tell me, what should be the administration policy, how to get it done? We all know they have to do it, but how to get it done?
Well, if I may just jump in it for a minute, you know that there's a $1.9 trillion bill that's been put forth by President Biden, and part of that, his goal in the first 100 days is to vaccinate 1 million folks in the first 100 days. So you do have an issue of supply and demand. And we having some serious problems in Washington, D.C. by those who might be disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 are not able to get the vaccine, or not able to get slots to get it, not even able to set on the waiting list. So we got a lot of seniors in D.C. with a lot of pain, and then we have some seniors who don't want to get it. For an example, I'm fortunate in my community, Sibley Hospital partnered with Johns Hopkins Hospital to go to 14 senior buildings in Washington, D.C. to actually go there to vaccinate those seniors. And I was checking the other day in terms of one of my buildings. I have about 126 units in terms of seniors who actually came downstairs. Well, it kind of disturbed me that many of the seniors in the building still in a state of fear and people to come down. Even though we expanded the vaccine facility, one of the things that the president of that building had to do was to go 2 buildings over and sound the alarm and say somebody's actually over here to bring people over from the senior building. We have a problem with, for example, in the white community in Washington, D.C., 70% of those, the white community seniors, sucked up all of the slots in the first week. So we had to go back and change things around by zip code to make sure those seniors who are in the and who are most at risk prior to those seniors for the vaccine. But we still have a problem with too many seniors in D.C. in fear of what happened way back in the Tuskegee days and back in the slavery days. It's just not feeling comfortable with neither one of the vaccines. And even though we got another one, hopefully we'll be approved in 2 or 3 weeks by Johnson. So I'll leave it like that.
Okay, thank you for Mr. King. So then let's go to Caroline. Caroline, what do you think we should do for? Or I think in this program we like to have suggestions and what we think government should do. That maybe somebody watching our show might get a good idea. So we are we'll give the numbers and then we'll come up with solutions. So where do you see, Caroline, what's the problem right now we are facing?
Well, I'm not a medical doctor or a medical professional by any means, but just as a layperson, as an ordinary resident, I would say that the couple of things. One is we absolutely need to be doubling down on our social distancing and kind of safe practices for avoiding transmission of the COVID. And if there's a question about that, there really shouldn't be. And likewise with the masks, we need to mask up at every opportunity when we're going to be around people walking on the streets, grocery shopping, that sort of thing. And thirdly, of course, is vaccinations. The vaccinations are just starting to roll out in the District of Columbia. We're experiencing a little bit of fits and starts and growing pains here and there. But when you get the opportunity to get a vaccination, by all means, get it.
Okay. So what you're suggesting is that by itself, vaccination will not be enough to end the pandemic. We still have to do our, safe practices, and that makes sense because vaccine takes time to act, and till that time, we need to have both strategies working side by side. And the other problem we are facing is we have these new virus mutant, and that is going to spread too. So the vaccine could be somewhat effective, but not very effective. And the question is, can we catch up or give vaccination as fast as possible so we have benefit from it? So I hope it's not null and void type situation. So best, I think, like you said, both strategies should be there. We cannot just party after the vaccines. That's absolutely wrong. So what do you think, Sheba, is happening in your neighborhood? Are people taking it seriously, vaccination?
Before I get to the vaccination, first of all, I think this is the first time that we get together since the pre-election era. So I'm super happy to say we did it in a way.
Yeah.
And I must admit that since this whole thing was over, mainly January 20th, we can believe that we had to wait that late. I think coming back to a certain level of normalcy, whatever that means for us now, post-Trump tweets, post-chaos and drama, for the first time, I enjoy actually turning on TV with boring news. And I enjoy the fact that it's like, the news now is just politics. It's what the government needs to do. And to some extent, it might be a little bit boring. And it should be that way, right? Nobody looks for politicians to be entertainers or just inject in us this level of chaos and uncertainty. So I am so grateful that since January 20th, it seems like, like the tone has calmed down a little bit, and we're looking at an administration that seems to be a little bit kind of knowledgeable of what the heck they need to do, without that level of tension and chaos. Having said that, it doesn't mean that they're not going to make their own mistakes, but I bet you the mistakes will not have the drama that was so exhausting and exhaustive over the past 4 years. So I wanted to let that sentiment, as an independent, non-biased, citizen, I wanted to share this feeling of I enjoy the current boredom sense of politics because it should be that way. And I go to bed not worried about what is the last minute, thing that can happen overnight. Back to your question, Dr. Moby, I think with COVID-19, we have to look into launching 2 campaigns at the same time, which actually the previous administration failed. We need really to continue the mitigation campaign and the vaccination campaign. And both are feasible when we have a system and structure. And it's interesting that I'm giving my feedback coming from a red state where the majority, there is a higher level of people resisting both campaigns that actually is well seen and perceived, in people not social distancing, people not wearing masks, and so on and so forth. So I think the idea of what we need to work towards in the next few months, I would say weeks and months, is really try to increase the level of this campaigning through informing people awareness, cultivating awareness of people to get the buy-in. We need to increase the buy-in in adopting both campaigns and reducing the resistance that, masking up or social distancing and even vaccination has become so political. So we need to figure out how to increase the buy-in and reduce the level of resistance, hopefully to get through this. And yeah, I totally agree with you with the alternation and the mutants, aspects of COVID and the virus. That is a huge question mark of what will leave us with that. But again, that means that we really need to still social distance, wear masks, wash hands, which unbelievable simple thing to do. We are still singing this song for like almost a year now, about a year. So we're still singing the same rhythm for a year, and yet still people are not getting it, until it's sometimes too late, even for them. As we heard testimonials of people dying or getting COVID, or because they didn't even believe that it was. So I think we have a lot more work to do, but awareness, try to increase one side or one activity or mindset and reduce the other one. I think that's probably the way we can go about to make it through the next year or two, maybe more.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And we were talking about, that's true. This is the first show after election,
Yeah.
so a lot of things happened. Dr. Masood pointed out to some of the activities near inauguration. Dr. Masood, you were going to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. But because before I go there, let me talk about the vaccine. The third one coming from Johnson and Johnson. Maybe next week they will give it emergency EUA, emergency use authorization. But the good thing is all of them have protection. So if we give it at a fast rate, we will protect our whole country, everybody, and then the variant will have less chance of coming in. Even the good news is that these vaccines, this one dose Johnson and Johnson vaccine, has a 57% efficacy. But the good thing is that it will save you from severe disease. God forbid, nobody who got that vaccine will have to go to the hospital or need a ventilator. So imagine if it's a slight cough and cold and a slight fatigue, body aches, you can stay home. H1N1, like H1N1, I myself quarantined myself in my bedroom for 1 week when I got H1N1 way back in 15. So the thing is, the vaccines are here. God willing, all of us will get it, and we are going in the right direction. Yes, distribution is difficult. If they give it to the clinics who have the roster for patients, we will just beam it to them, text it to them, to come on, get it. That will make it much easier. Like we are pediatricians, we give shot. That's the bread and butter. So give it to us, and we'll let everybody. We'll even let the parents, the grandparents, everybody come in, have flu clinic, the shot clinic separately. So if they will find whatever they want to do, we are available. And now coming back to what happened on January 6th, God forbid it happens again, but the only problem is that a crime was committed and people went inside the capital, came out and went home, drove all the way to the other part of the country. This is unheard of. This is something that has never happened. Nobody imagined it. A lot of lawmakers were at risk, and some of them were threatened, some of them were hiding, all those things. And then we have cries or appeals of reconciliation. Let's move on. Let's forget everything. Okay, everybody wants to move on. Everybody wants to have a good life, live the same old USA that we have experienced for the last 25 years. But a law was broken. A law was broken, and somebody has to be held accountable. So going forward, we should be very strongly supporting that whatever crime was committed, people who ever did it should be held accountable so that we move on and nobody else tries to do it again.
Okay. Well, thank you for those comments. So, Dr. Arif, so if you give us your take, how things are in Texas, and are people taking finally seriously vaccination?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mobby, for having me on this show. So there are a couple of things that I think I would like to highlight about Texas perspective. As we all know, this Lone Star State is much bigger in size, and it is also like politically is becoming much more interesting and complex. It used to be straightforward Republican state, right? Things had already started changing for last couple of years. It's been 4 years that I have been living in this state, and I also observed many changes. For example, those bigger cities, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, they are pretty much blue, and they have highest concentration of diversity of views and immigrants. And part of the reason, like these corporations who are bringing in more educated people there, their views are becoming more and more, I would say, like a little bit more open-ended, blue and stuff. But if we go to some other parts of Texas, such as West Texas, or like some other like less densely populated area, or where the agriculture and oil is a big thing, then things are like very much red. And why it has to be taken into context while we are talking about vaccination and vaccination campaigns, because we know the country has been very much divided, unfortunately, right? Even for those things, they should be commonsensical. Like, we all have the right to live, we all have the right to get better health care, and we all need to survive, right? And we all need to fight COVID-19. But all of these debates, they also get divided, like between Republican and Democratic stuff over here in Texas. Now, vaccination is happening in this state. As I said, like if we go to those urban areas where there is more blue map in those areas, you would see like really less resistance, and people are actually lining up to get vaccinated. But if you go to some other areas, like where I said, like where the oil money is, agriculture is, less densely populated area, things are difficult. People are still buying into all those conspiracy theories, and those anti-vaxxers have more kind of like a softer corner for them over there. So this is just a generalized situation. What should be done, Dr. Mobby, you asked. My layman approach, what I am seeing over here, at least in the state of Texas, the way the vaccine had started unfolding in this area, like in the beginning, it was like through PCPs, like primary care physicians. And even though that's a great thing, like those physicians were making judgments and were making sure like people who have underlying conditions and stuff, they get it primarily. But there are challenges. There are so many people, like for example, illegal immigrants, right? They don't even have PCPs, right? We have to take these things into consideration. We are not, everyone is human being, first of all, when it comes to disease. Disease does not care whether you have a passport, you have a green card, or you are alien, so to speak. Hopefully, President Biden is going to change the name from alien to non-citizens, right? So, okay, so the problem is PCPs won't be able to cater to the needs of those people who are not even going to doctors, or they cannot even afford to go to a PCP. So first of all, we have to figure it out how to give vaccine to everyone across the board. And I'm speaking at least for the state of Texas, because US is so big, it has like so much more challenges. Like for example, as Robert King said, like DC challenges are different, and I'm very much unaware of those challenges, right? Because I don't know like the overall population dynamic and stuff over there. So second, I believe when we say like corporate America is a problem, I say like corporate America at the same time is a solution. So for example, if Amazon and Walmart are coming forward and they are telling us like, hey, we are there to help you disseminate your vaccine. Let's come into terms with these big corporations who have already established units throughout this country, and let's try to benefit from it, because this These are unusual, special circumstances that we should be doing. Third, I believe that we need to, our governments and our systems, whosoever are the policymakers are going to implement these decisions, I believe they should establish mobile clinics, like those mobile networks where those clinics can go to those far-flung areas and disseminate the vaccine in those areas, right? And there should be less paperwork, particularly asking questions like those, like where do you live, whether you are a legal citizen, or rather issue some sort of like card, passport, whatever you call it, that we can verify that this person actually has been vaccinated. So and then since I am a media and communication person, and one of you talked about campaigns, right? So it did excite me. Like government needs to also initiate a campaign, because there are two kinds of people. One kind of people in the United States, they're anti-vaxxers. I don't know whether we will be able to change their mind or not, right? However, there are other people who are just apprehensive about it. They're afraid. They don't know whether these are different reactions they might get through. I mean, we need to launch those campaigns, and we need to tell them, by the way, for example, we get flu vaccines every year, and flu vaccines does have their reactions, right, in some people. But we are no longer afraid because it's just there. So we need to launch some campaigns to overcome those apprehensions and fears that people might have in their mind. So these are those couple of things that I would think from a layman's perspective. And as Dr. Moby, your show, basically, just like this, these kind of open discussion platforms need to take place more and more, so that like people can speak their heart out, they can discuss their apprehensions and problems, and we can get the expert opinion. As right now, Dr. Anwar Masood and Dr. Moby, you both are experts in the field, and then we can educate ourselves from you and move forward from there. So these are just my 2 cents here in this program, talking about at least the vaccine perspective.
Okay, well, that is very thorough, very nice. And that's definitely, I talked to Mr. King and others to love to do these kind of shows more, because I feel that this is our duty to guide the new administration. I think it's better if we give a solution and we help them. So, because we are actually volunteering for vaccinations, as well as posting our pictures, but also encouraging. Education is number one thing. That's true. There will be people who will never go for shot. There are which have a second doubt about it, or they have inadequate information. Unfortunately, most of the information, bad press gets a lot of press. Good press like us, when we try to give facts, they somehow they don't travel that fast. I don't know. I always find it very, very difficult to understand that, the good things you want to educate people, you want to tell, they somehow that is suppressed, and the only way. So look at the side effect of the vaccine. It's only like really very minimal per millions, and then all of a sudden you get that press, oh, there's a reaction happening. Okay, well, look at the context of that reaction. It's in 1 in million, something like that. I mean, it's really low, and that's pretty safe vaccine. So but somehow the press was focused on only those 1 or 2 cases. That is very amazing. I think this is what is called journalism, right? So Mr. King, do you see in DC, I think we had earlier conversation, and you said when the vaccines opened up, there was kind of not a proper planning to distribute, and some of those minorities were left out on vaccination. Hey, sorry, let's unmute you. Go ahead, Mr. King.
And they still continue to be left out. One of the things that I did when I went to get my shot on a couple of weeks ago, and I challenged everybody on this panel. I chair the Ward 5 Dems Senior COVID-19 Commission. So when I went and got my shot, I had on my Biden's T-shirt, Biden mask, Biden hat, and actually took a picture of actually getting the vaccine. and I sent that, put it on YouTube or put it on Facebook. I sent that to Lottie Dottie and everybody, and I got a lot of folks call back and said, Bob, you got the vaccine? I'm gonna go get it, because I represent a lot of seniors as the longest serving elected official in DC, both as an ANC and as an elected person. So I thought that one of the ways that I could contribute is actually had the nurse, when I go back and get my second shot on February the 8th, I'm going to take a picture with the nurse actually giving me the vaccine. I'm going to take that same picture and to continue to encourage, because we still got 37% of the Black population who say they're not going to take it. We got 75% of the people who are wearing masks, and then we got 24% of the people who say they're not going to wear masks. So the vaccine, mask, social distances, and then we said in order to make this effective, the goal is to try to inoculate some 70, 80 million folks. So, you know, when during the Trump's administration, we set a goal to do 20 million. When he left office, it was only 40 million. And then we have a supply and demand issue. And like I said, in DC, it's really been an awful situation. The campaign is very important to us. You know, we need our doctors. We need our Black basketball players, Black football players. You know, I saw the mayor the other day. She was taking the vaccine even with her eyes closed because she was scared of the needle. But at least she was out there. So we need all of our leaders, our city council members. Hopefully Caroline Petty is going to join me next week and get her shot, because she represents a lot of people. And that's we find one, teach one, find one, teach one. And that's what we're going to have to do.
Okay. So, Caroline, you have to unmute yourself. Caroline, you have to unmute.
I was just saying to Bob that I'm not eligible yet.
Oh, you're not.
I'm just a young spring chicken.
Oh, okay.
Same here.
Okay. So what is the good news? Like feeling you're young chicken or not getting shot?
Yeah, that my husband asks me that fairly frequently.
Okay. So,
I think just a comment about I think this Dr. Arif's what he was saying earlier about communications and people being afraid and apprehensive about taking it. I think it was a real mistake, or maybe it was on purpose, for the Trump folks to refer to this vaccine effort as a warp speed effort. Because warp speed, you know, in the context of something you inject into your bloodstream, really wrong and sad messaging. I hope we can kind of put that behind us.
yeah, that is true. You know, I hope. So it's important point is, you know, Mr. King said, and when he talked to me, and I was kind of looking at that, you know, the biggest risk factors are actually minorities of complication. So if they are not getting vaccines, and when the vaccination starts, the other people get advantage, or somehow they cross the lines, and then those are left behind. I mean, that's sad, because, you know, it means that minorities still will unfortunately have complications. The one way it looks like, you know, somebody was just trying to say to the system that no, vaccines are nothing, but as soon as the vaccination starts, they are first in line. So I mean, that is sad if it's true, you know. So I don't know, you know, how true is that, but that's what appears, the information I'm getting so far. But whatever it is, we really need to help get the word out and, you know, get everybody vaccinated. I mean, no matter what. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, these money which Biden has, or they're considering the bill. So any thoughts on what should be the message? It should be everybody individual getting money, or businesses? Because this is a tricky question.
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a great step. When Biden, like 1.9 trillion, and I believe now they're going alone if the Republicans are not helping them in passing the vote, they'll go alone and pass the bill. That's a good thing because the second wave is coming up. Like Fauci said, Anthony Fauci said, like it's gonna be bad before it gets any better. So give the money to the people. Just give them hope. There are 3 types of vaccines coming. They have ordered 600 million. USA first, then the whole world. But the good thing is, give them hope. Tell them it's a month, couple of months. Just hang on. Prepare yourself, the businesses and everything. So we just have at the most a couple of months to go up the hump and down, and start living towards a normal life. So it's a good thing. Yes, it's a lot of money, but these are everybody are people. These are our people. They need to be happy. But before we move on, so good effort, good thing. Let's hope in March, middle of March, we cut through this thing and move on. Everybody,
So anybody else has any comment whether businesses should also get or bailout? And we'll talk a little bit about some of the business, especially restaurants, and which business.
Right. If I may, Dr. Moby, you're talking about the stimulus checks and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is interesting. So Dr. Moby, this becomes like tricky because the whole campaign that Democrats have, hey, we care about individuals as well. We are not gonna bail out those big Wall Street companies alone because their CEOs mint more money than anyone else, and then they get the bailout. So if we say businesses alone, I understand there are small businesses as well. That, again, from political campaign perspective, it's not going to send a very good message for President Biden and his team, right? So my perspective from a political communication kind of like point of view would be that we have to make sure that President Biden somehow finds a kind of balance in between these two things. We cannot isolate business because that's the reality, particularly smaller business. Even I see every single day in many smaller areas in Texas, there are so many local businesses, they are going out of they are just closing. And that's sad to see those things. And we really want them to survive. There are different restaurants, there are different smaller businesses. They could not survive because of the pandemic. But at the same time, there are people who need to pay their bills, who need some sort of like booster in their economy to be able to survive, right? So I think that it has to be both, but I also sincerely believe that it should not be seen as if Wall Street again is getting the most benefit out of this bailout. It should not be seen like those big corporations, they did all the crazy things and then they had easy like exit from this entire chaos. So it's a $1 million, or I would say like $1 trillion question that you just asked. But I think like my perspective is Biden campaign has to handle it really, really carefully, because we have to make sure our businesses are surviving, and we also have to make sure that it aligns with their campaign when they were trying to get the White House back from Republicans.
Okay, and then anybody has any other thoughts? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Chairman.
Okay, let me unmute myself. I think I muted myself on my end. So I think for me, like Dr. Arif says, I have also $1.9 trillion to say, to question is, where is this money coming from? I mean, we're already seeing the market plunging because, the idea is we're going to start printing money like they're, I don't know, the little chiffons or something. So we need to understand that money has value. And so where is the money coming from? Raising taxes has to be another solution. But I feel like where the mindset of the American people right now is at, it's like they want to eat the omelet without breaking the eggs. And sometimes we really have to make these tough choices about how we are going to overcome this as a nation, from the 1 percentile to the lower, socioeconomic layers in the society. And for us just to keep on, like Dr. Arif said, bailing out the cruises companies and the airline industry, and then the people who come home and they don't have any income, any food on the table, and kids are not getting food in schools from everything that's going on is absolutely inhumane. And I think that's what we need to understand. Like, yeah, if it means that the administration has to raise taxes on the wealthy people, I think they can really live without a lot of the lifestyle they have that other people are far from even being there. So in other words, it's not socialism. Unfortunately, they label it as socialism. It's a time of crisis where I think that the people who have made so much money, especially in the past 4 years, who doubled and tripled their assets, can actually look into, this is a time to, higher taxes on these people. They're not going to suffer all that much, trust me. But the money needs to come from somewhere. And I wish I saw something a little more tangible, some concrete pathway of here is where this money is going to come from. That's very important. It's not any different from running a household and somebody wants to, I don't know, buy, I don't know, I'm not going to say a Ferrari or something, but I'm like, buy a new computer or something. And it's like, okay, where is the money coming from? What we have is hardly, how that's one thought. The other thought, and I don't know if it's in the 1.9 trillion, because I know the Republicans did say that it has to be separated, which is raising the minimum wage to $15. I think it's a great idea, of course. But on the other hand, and don't call me conservative because I'm not, but I'm very pragmatic and realistic. It's like, how is a business owner going to survive paying people $15 an hour in a time where they hardly make business, do business? So there are a lot of questions that I feel like I'm not having a clear understanding of what the Biden administration is planning to do to really meet these responsibilities. And they're putting too many crises in the same pot at the same time. And I think in life you have sometimes to prioritize. Right now, getting food on people's tables and the kids fed, people who lost their jobs, health insurance. These are like the if we think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, truly for some people, it's not, the stock market is going up or down. For some people, they are at the basic level of survival in the hierarchy of need. And that's what the government right now needs to address to meet that, level 1 for the people. And we should not really worry about the people who are at the higher level, because they're not going to be suffering all that much. But a clear understanding of the pathway to let's save the day is really a must for us to understand.
Okay. Well, my only take would be just to make sure, they reward, first of all, people who get vaccine. Maybe I recommend putting a reward for, incentive, bonus, get your shot. Okay. So if you deny vaccine, well, then you don't get a bonus, whatever.
So what the bonus would be for you? What do you think the bonus, like money, give money to people to get vaccinated? Because I heard it somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion, because everybody gets vaccinated. Guess what? Then it saves a lot of money on sickness.
Well, I last time I got my flu shot, I got a gift card. I mean, it's $10 at my pharmacy. So I don't know. Would a $10 gift card or $30 gift card would be enough? I mean, I didn't do it for the $10, but the concept is there. You get a flu shot and then you get a gift card for $10. So how much would it worth, like in terms of the psyche of people or who resist vaccination? How much would that mean to them? How much is worth? $10, $20, $30? What would that be the price tag?
No, I think they have a pyramid where they are going, like first healthcare workers, then coming down 1B, 75 and above, then 65 and above, school teachers. They have a plan. I don't think gift cards are going to work because and this variation with the virus, the structure of the virus changing. I think it's the main news nowadays, and everybody is involved. Like in Montgomery County, Maryland, we have now schools opening, and when I went to get my shot, I saw a lot of seniors 75 plus coming in getting their shot, their kids bringing them. So I think we are on a plan. I don't, and Shabazz think that I don't believe they're gonna bail out industries first. The $1,400 bill is exactly for that $1,400 per person bill is for that person. It's not 2,000. It's not 600. It's 1,400. And imagine, like, these are the clients of big companies. These people are gonna buy food and toothpaste and stuff and shoes and school books and everything for the kids. So give them money. The big companies will get rich anyway. So they have a plan. The only problem is supply. They have things in place. I hope to God everything goes through. We have 3 vaccines and we vaccinate quickly and efficiently. CVS, Walgreens, yes, those are pharmacies. Vaccine storage is also big issue. Johnson & Johnson does not need refrigeration, so it can be given easily, like with mobile clinics, like Arif said. But
If
I understand that we'll be good. We'll be good in a couple of months. Just hang on. Let those $1,400 checks come in, and we'll go through it. We are good.
Anwar, I didn't say don't give the money. I hope it didn't come out like, oh, don't give them the money. What I'm saying is that I want to see where the price tag is coming from, because we need to face the reality of what's happening. Printing money, where is the money coming from? How are we gonna overcome the deficit? And then speaking about the 65 and over to get vaccinated, to be honest with you, this is the first time in my life that I wish I was over 65 just to get the damn vaccine. And it's like, how long should I be waiting? It's just like, it's okay. But at the same time, it's like my friend, she's over 65. Her mother is 85. She keeps on messaging me like, oh, there is a site where you can go get vaccinated for people over 65, and I'm like, it's not my turn yet. Can I kind of just like have a fake ID card like the teenagers do to get alcohol instead of 21? I'll get a fake ID with 65 years old to get vaccinated. But I think what I'm trying to say here is that, yeah, it's going to get hard before it gets better. And what I wish I see more, that I have seen more over the past year even, is that people need to be a little bit patient. The universe, for those who are not religious or whatever, spiritual, the universe has tested our patience as well as everything else that we have been going through. And we failed, really. As a humanity, we, failed in a way that we cannot understand what we need to do to protect each other. We cannot be patient in masking and social distancing, because that's what we need to do to protect one another. And it became more of a matter, it's a hoax, I don't believe it, or my freedom. It's a lot of nonsense that's going on that really we lacked patience in addressing one of the biggest tests of all times, which is a world pandemic, that everybody has gone through. But hopefully, like you say, I'll be as optimistic as you are. We're going to get better in a few months.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask, Caroline. Caroline, tell us a little bit about DC statehood.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moby. Thank you very much for having me, and for Bob King for suggesting that I come on. Appreciate it. I am the chair of the Ward 5 Democrat Statehood Committee, as you mentioned earlier. And we are in the city of Washington, D.C., we are engaged in a major campaign to achieve statehood for the District of Columbia. Let me start with just kind of a succinct statement of the problem that we're trying to solve. And that is that for over 200 years, the residents of the District of Columbia, the residents of the nation's capital, have lacked a full voice in our national government. And in addition to that, we've also been denied control over our own local government. And those are the problems that we're trying to solve with statehood. That for 200 years this has gone on. It may have made sense 200 years ago when George Washington first said, that site there on the banks of the Potomac between Maryland and Virginia, that's where I want to put the nation's capital. That was a time when there were very few actual people living there or working there. There were some, but not in the numbers we're seeing today. So we were an afterthought. Representation for the citizens of the new seat of government was kind of an afterthought. They had other bigger things on their minds. But since then, we've grown exponentially. We are now over 700,000 people and growing, although no one quite knows yet how the pandemic is going to affect populations in the District of Columbia. But we're over 700,000 people, and we are Americans in the fullest sense of the word, just like everyone else in the country. We work for a living, and not just for the government. In fact, not mostly for the government. Most of the government workers come in from Maryland and Virginia. So we work, we pay federal taxes, we serve on juries, we serve in the military, we have neighborhoods with things like civic associations and scouting activities and garden clubs and, the run-of-the-mill things that go on in neighborhoods. We worship. Nearly every faith tradition is represented in the nation's capital. We educate. We have 7 world-class universities here. And the long and short of it is that DC represents, and the residents here represent, the diversity that is the United States of America. So let me just go back to the 2 problems that we're trying to solve. And one is voting representation in the U.S. Congress. In the House of Representatives, we do have a delegate. Her name is Eleanor Holmes Norton. You may have heard of her. She's got an excellent reputation. We call her our warrior on the Hill, and she does an excellent job representing the District of Columbia. But she's very limited in the power and the vote that she has in the House of Representatives. She can sit on a committee. She can vote in committee. She can introduce legislation. She can participate in floor debates when debates are going on the floor of the House, but she can't cast a binding vote on bills that are on the floor of the House. So that's significantly limited legislative authority. So that's the House. When it comes to the Senate, we have absolutely no voice, no voting representation in the Senate whatsoever. So the major issues of the day that come before the Senate, like impeachment, COVID relief, you name it, whatever it is. Those of us who live in DC, we spend a lot of time yelling at our television sets because we have no one to call in the U.S. Senate who represents us there. So that's one of the problems. The other problem, as I mentioned, is control over our own local affairs. The way the district government, we have a very limited home rule in the District of Columbia. We have a mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and we have a council, and the council kind of acts as a legislature. It's a 13-member body, and they pass laws, and then those laws get enacted when the mayor signs them into law. But in every instance, every law we pass, whether it's a budget bill or an alley closing, from the sublime to the ridiculous, every law we passed has to be transmitted to the Congress for review before it can be enacted. Now, for the most part, those bills are transmitted, they sit there for the requisite 30 days, Congress doesn't act, and then they can become laws, for the most part. But to a fairly significant extent, there are instances, particularly if the District of Columbia passes anything controversial. Let's say if it's on has to do with gun control, or charter schools, or abortion, or marijuana, anything slightly controversial often prompts a reaction in the Congress. And the Congress can then step in, and so long as they go through the proper legislative process in Congress, they can change our laws, they can block our laws, they can rewrite them. And so we're very limited in the amount of control, and it's often very frustrating for the residents here who want that kind of autonomy that every other state in the union enjoys. So just to wrap up, and then if there are any questions, I'd be happy to go into more detail. But we feel that the only long-term way of reconciling these problems is through statehood. And so how do we get there? The way that we are approaching getting there is through legislation. Every state in the Union entered the Union, other than the original 13, every one after that, up to Hawaii and Alaska, entered the Union through legislation. And what that involved is a bill was introduced to grant the territory, generally statehood. It was debated in the House, debated in the Senate, passed the House, passed the Senate, and then signed into law, and the states became part of the United States of America. So that's the process that we're following here. And we're further along in that process than we've ever been before. And we think that because of the support that we have among Democrats, it's now become a core priority for the Democratic Party to pass DC statehood. So we think with the Democrats controlling the House and the Senate and the presidency, that success is looking much more likely than it ever has been before.
Okay, but thank you for yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for educating us. Like, I have seen your license plates, no representation. Like I said, like, what do you mean by that?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
is there anything any like common citizen like me could do? Yes, we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, but do we need a certain number of like 67% votes or something?
Possibly.
And I think the major problem is that it will give 2 Democratic Senate seats. That's why the Republicans do not want it to happen. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. You're absolutely right. And it should be said that there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that requires before a state can be admitted to the Union, you have to be Party X or Party Y.
Okay.
It used to be that being an American and enjoying the full constitutional rights that all Americans enjoy was a bipartisan, patriotic position to have. But unfortunately, I think it was you who mentioned it earlier, like everything else, this has devolved into a very partisan debate.
Okay. Yeah.
Hopefully we will resolve it. Hopefully you will get your statehood. I'm with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I'm sure you'll get your vaccine before your statehood. That I know. I know. Maybe you'll get it. So, okay, but thank you.
You don't know how young I am.
Yeah. Okay, but thank you for all joining. But just last thing quickly, and then we'll say goodbye. I think all the barriers are in DC, but very important thing is I think there was some question that they should make it permanent. I think that's a bad idea because I don't think problem was the DC. It was somewhere other problems. So anybody has any comments on that?
I love DC. I want to go there every weekend. Just look at the monuments like Lincoln Memorial everywhere. So I don't want it blockaded, but I don't know how important it is. And I would like to leave it that way because I've heard some bad things. So I want it blockaded, but hopefully not for long.
Okay. So anybody else has any comment? Okay, well, thank you for all joining. It was pleasure. We'll definitely catch up next week and weekly, hopefully. Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care all.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you.
Bye.
Nice to
Bye.
meet you.
Bye.
Bye.